now you want me to sit down and write a story? Madison, that does not make any sense. But that's exactly what you have to do. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison and it is nice to meet you. In today's video, I am going to be giving you all of my tips and tricks to writing a personal statement for your law school application. I was what they call a reverse splitter, meaning that I had a very high GPA, higher than the school that I applied to's median, and then I had an LSAT that was lower than the school that I applied to's median. That meant that the other factors of my application, like my personal statement, were super important to me getting admitted to the school that I'm going to. I think my personal statement separated me from other applicants and basically kind of got me in. Like, I'm really proud of my personal statement. So I'm going to tell you how I did it, all the tips that I have, and I hope you enjoy the video. You should subscribe if you are new. I post law school videos quite a bit, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. As always, if you ever have any questions about anything, you can leave them in the comments below, or you can message me on Instagram. I would love to hear from you. All of my law school vlogs and advice videos will be in the cards, so be sure to click on that and watch those. But let's get into it. Tip 1, forget your stats. Now, this might be the hardest thing to do because it seems like the entire law school application process is based on numbers. What's your GPA? What's your LSAT? It seems like that's all that any admissions committee ever cares about. But when you're writing your personal statement, do not even think about your stats. I cannot envision one situation where you would want to reference your stats in your personal statement, so keep it its own thing. This is not an addendum. This is not you explaining a low LSAT score, explaining a low GPA. This is not about you trying to prove yourself. This is its own separate thing, and it should be treated like that. Tip number 2, think about what has shaped your life. I am a firm believer that a personal statement can be about literally anything. I said it. That's a bold claim, but I stand behind it 100%. You can make it about anything that you want. Whenever you look up sample law school personal statements, I think it can be a bit of a slippery slope because a lot of them have went through very traumatic life experiences, and some of you are probably thinking, I don't have traumatic life experiences. You know, I am in that same boat. I've been very blessed, very privileged growing up. I didn't have anything super traumatic happen to me. So then when I sat down to write my personal statement, there was nothing that naturally came to me that I should write about. So if you're worried about not having an interesting life or anything to write about, don't worry, because you can write about anything, big or small, as long as it affected your life in some capacity. For example, I read a sample law school personal statement about weightlifting, and it was such a good personal statement. They talked about the trials and tribulations that came with weightlifting, and they tied it in with challenges they might face in law school and their legal career, and it was overall just a really pleasant read just about one of their hobbies. You can write about anything as long as it's something that's interested you and shaped who you are. If you like cooking, write a personal statement about cooking. There you go. You can write it about anything. Tip number 3 is to tell a story. This might seem counterintuitive since so much of the applications is just based on numbers. Now you want me to sit down and write a story? Madison, that does not make any sense. But that's exactly what you have to do. This is your time to engage the admissions committee and make them interested in you and why you are unique as an applicant. This is when you can make use of all of your fancy literary techniques. Be descriptive. Use metaphors. Be creative. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Tip number 4. It doesn't have to be why law. I think a lot of people get stuck on this. They think their personal statement is just an answer to the question, why law? This doesn't have to be the case. Since I said you could write your personal statement about anything, if there's not a natural segue to answering why law, you don't have to do it. For example, in my personal statement, I did discuss it just because I wrote mine about an internship that I had in the legal field, so it kind of connected. If I would have done my internship about something else, I probably wouldn't have directly answered the question why I want to go in the legal field. I don't think you have to answer this question, but I do think that in your personal statement, you should highlight some characteristics that you have that will illustrate that you'll be successful in law school. For example, you're ambitious, you're empathetic, you seek justice, stuff like that. So if you have some story that has nothing to do with the legal field or law school at all that you want to tell, go ahead and tell it, but make sure that it does illustrate that you can be successful in a legal environment. Now that I've went over my main content type tips, I wanted to give you some mini tips that you should remember while you're writing your personal statement. It's 2 pages max. Do not go over 2 pages. If a law school goes through the trouble of going past your LSAT and your GPA and they want to read your personal statement, they're not going to read it if it's 4 pages long. I'm sorry. 2 pages max. Be descriptive, but also be concise. It is kind of a balancing game, but you can get there to where it's a good balance between this is descriptive, this is thorough, but it's also not drawn out, rambly, wordy. Start working on it early. Now, this isn't something that you should start writing one day and then turn in the next day. If you're applying for next cycle, I say, you can start writing it anytime. It's a 2-page essay. Sit down, write a draft, put it away for a week. Come back to it, read it again, make a couple tweaks, put it away for another week. And keep doing that until you really feel like you have a perfect essay. Do not get yourself in the headspace of, I have to finish it today and I want to submit it today and be done with it. It's a work in progress. It's like art. It takes time. Read it to other people, get their input. Read your essay out loud so you can check for grammar errors. The last thing you want is an amazing personal statement that is just riddled with grammatical errors. I mean, that would be very unfortunate. Read it out loud to other people, read it out loud to yourself, make changes, and take your time. You don't have to do it in one day. Overall, my final tip, and I think it ties everything together, and I've mentioned it, be creative. This is the part where you don't have to stick to the rigid confines of the legal application process. This is where you get to color outside the lines. So take advantage of that. If the admissions committee is looking for people who are outside the box, coloring outside the lines, and you're staying in the lines, then you're not maximizing your potential to get into a good law school. Especially if you were in a situation like me, where your stats are kind of up in the air, the personal statement is a great opportunity for you to set yourself apart. And it still, to this day, is my favorite thing that I did in the whole law school application process. So I know it's stressful, and I know you're going to be reading it and reading it and reading it and feeling like a complete perfectionist, but have fun with it because it is actually kind of fun. So that was my personal statement video. In the next week, I'm actually thinking about making a video where I read my personal statement, where I point out some things that I think I did really well with my personal statement and some things maybe that I would change if I could do it again. So if you'd like to see my reacting to my personal statement video, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you are new, and I will see you in my next video.